All of this was shot on one prime cinema lens. And before I tell you guys what lens this is and the company that makes it, check this out. Alright, so a few weeks ago, a company called SIRUIJupiter reached out to me and they wanted to see if I was interested in trying out their new Jupiter 35mm prime cinema lens. And of course, I said yes, but I let them know I was going to be real about this. I was going to give you guys my honest review. I was going to try this out on my docuseries Law of the Goat. I had a couple of shoots scheduled and I really wanted to give a real honest opinion and see if I could work this into my workflow and how the footage looked. And they got back to me and they said, of course, we want you to be honest and we want to give you the lens and you tell us what you think of it and tell your audience what you think of it. So this is it. This is what I think of it, I guess. Alright, so first let's take a second and actually talk about the body of the lens. The lens comes with 11 iris blades and it has an aperture range of T2 to T22. Now for those of you who don't know, cinema lenses use T-stops and not f-stops. And this lens would be around a 1.8 f-stop. Now, one thing that I found very impressive about this lens, it has the ability to focus all the way down to 24mm, which is less than an inch away from the lens. Now, the lenses that I'm currently using for all my projects are Sigma art lenses. And while I can get a beautiful image out of this lens, they don't have the ability to focus that close. Now, I will say that this lens definitely has some weight to it, and they're definitely a little bit heavier than I expected. But in my opinion, I didn't think that this was like a make or break thing, but if you're using something like a really small DSLR and you're looking for a really compact setup, the weight of the lens might affect your decision making, but for me personally, I thought it was okay. I'm rocking a monster of a 12K camera anyway, so for me it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, the front of the lens has a 95mm diameter and a 92mm filter thread, which can be a problem if you don't have built-in ND filters or a matte box. However, you can always get some step down rings that allow you to go down to 82 or 77mm, but keep in mind that if you do that, you might encounter some sort of vignetting on the lens. On the smart side of the lens, you have markings for both feet and meters, and the rotation of the focus ring is about 200 degrees. And one thing that I noticed right away is that the focus ring is extremely smooth. I noticed on the Sigma art lenses, it's a little bit tougher to dial in that focus. Throwing this lens right on my 12K and just using it in the field, and again, like I make documentaries, so for me, I don't have like a focus pull or anything. Personally, I really enjoyed using it and I thought that it was a huge benefit and something that I never really thought of when I think of cinema lenses. I think to myself like, oh, cinema lenses must mean like better glass, but it also means that the actual body of it and the actual casing, and especially that focus ring, it's just a smoother, overall nicer feel to it. On cinema cameras, you don't actually change the aperture on the camera, you actually change it on the lens, which took a little bit getting used to for me because I'm not used to using like high-grade cinema lenses, but I actually really enjoyed it because I could quickly change aperture or adjust it to the exact decimal that I want it to. And on top of it, the ring is a little bit stiffer than the focus ring, which is perfect because just in case if I accidentally hit it or I accidentally adjust it while I'm filming, I don't want it to change too much or change at all for that matter. I actually like it a little bit stiffer, which to me is perfect. The lens also comes with a lens support with a 1/4-20 right in the middle, and of course, it's removable. Right out of the box, the lens also comes with a rear cap and an awesome bendable cap that is friction fit that goes right on the front of the lens. Now that we got the body of the lens out of the way, let's talk about performance. While I was using the lens, I noticed some slight barrel distortion, especially when my subjects were a little bit closer to the lens and I was kind of following them. But that being said, a lot of wide angle lenses like a 24 and a 35mm usually have some slight barrel distortion. To me, it was a little noticeable if I was really looking for it, which I was really trying to pay attention if this gave like any kind of crazy barrel distortion, and I could tell it did give me a little bit, but if I was just watching this play out in a full-length documentary or a feature film or something, I don't think I would really notice it too much. Another thing that I noticed is that when you go all the way down to T2, there was some slight vignetting, but as you move up to like a T2.2 or a 2.3, it goes away and it's It's honestly not that big of a deal, but it is something to think about, especially if you're the type of person that likes to shoot with a really low aperture. When it comes to flaring, there's a lot of flaring in this lens, and if you notice in some of these shots where we kind of have a strong light source, you can clearly see the lens flares. For some of you out there that don't really like lens flaring, you might want to think about getting a matte box. Me personally, I like the fact that it gave a little bit of character to the lens flares, and it gave a little bit of something interesting and unique as these strong light sources are passing by the lens. Now, I really noticed it when there was a strong light source in one side of the lens. It kind of looks like there's this haze effect on that side where the light is coming from. It actually almost in a way looks like you have some sort of mist filter on it. Some people don't want to have that for their lens or for their next lens that they're looking to buy. But again, to me, I kind of like that look, and I kind of like the fact that this has some imperfections and it gives it a little bit more character. The only other con that I really see is that the fact that this lens has a 92mm filter thread. Now, like I said before, this isn't a huge deal because you could always get a step down ring, but I don't know if that step down ring is going to cause vignetting. And if it does, then that means that you're going to have to buy some new filters, which could cost you an additional few $100s. The alternative to that is getting a matte box, and we all know that that adds some weight, and it also adds, you know, another additional expense to the cost of this lens that most of us don't want to spend. So I would really kind of make sure that this is the look that you're kind of going for and you want those little imperfections. And I would always suggest before you buy anything, especially like an expensive purchase like this, you want to make sure that you try it before you buy it and make sure you really like it before you invest in it. Now, after using this lens for a couple of weeks on a few different projects, I overall really enjoyed using it. I think that the build quality is exceptional. I think it's really sturdy and well built. I could tell that if I drop this thing, nothing's really gonna happen to it. And the look that you get out of it, I mean, like I said, it has some imperfections and it has some things that maybe not everybody wants, or a look that not everybody wants. But I definitely think it gives a little bit of character to my image. I like it. I like that it has a little bit of a vintage look to it and a little bit of a vintage feel to it. And I think that if you're looking to add a little bit of a creative flair to your arsenal of lenses, this is an awesome buy and something that you guys should definitely check out. But listen guys, don't take my word for it. I'm gonna leave some test footage at the end of the video. Drop some comments down below. Let me know whether you guys think this lens is awesome or you think it's trash. Be honest. You know, I want to hear what you guys have to say. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.